We're a little over a month into the season, but how much more do we know about this 2024 Texas Rangers team than we did at the beginning of the year? On today's show, I'm breaking down 10 things we've learned so far this season. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a criminally addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, I'm breaking down 10 things we've learned about this team so far a month into the season. Before we do, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit, I've got a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Now, we are officially 29 games into the season, a little over, about a sixth of the way or so through this Major League season, where your Texas Rangers are the defending World Series champs, which still feels incredibly good to say and kind of colors, I feel like, most people's outlook, at least as Rangers fans, on this season of, okay, wow, that was fun. And now I'm just going to ride the high of watching these guys who helped my team win their first ever championship and had just such a beautiful, amazing, fun run through the World Series last year. And headed into the year, there was not a whole lot of expectations around Major League Baseball of this team repeating as champs. There was a lot of picking them to go around 500, maybe 85 wins, maybe 86 if you were looking at the right prognostication. But so far this year, I feel like we know a decent amount about these Rangers. The name of the game was just to stay afloat while the Rangers wait for their big arms to come off the IL. Just don't get buried in a hole early. And, well, that has happened to certain other teams in the AL West. But for the Rangers, right now, 29 games in, they are 15-14. Their Pythagorean record has them at 15-14. They have been okay, pretty decent. Some parts of this team have not lived up to expectations so far. Some of them have vastly outperformed expectations. But I want to start with the number one thing that we've learned so far. And it's that doubting Adolis Garcia at this point has got to come with criminal negligence charges. I mean, this guy has been one of the best players in baseball for a while now. We saw it very loudly on display in the ALCS and in Game 1 of the World Series, where Adolis Garcia just captivated the entire world with what he was doing to baseballs and just annihilating them left, right, center. And he's still doing the exact same thing this year, leading this team with 25 RBIs, 8 home runs, second on the team with 7 doubles, a 934 OPS. He is impacting the baseball at an obscene rate. And not only is he great offensively, defensively, well, there have been some miscues in the outfield, which we have seen from Adolis over the years. Just some little mental mistakes that have led to errors that haven't been ideal. But the arm out there, he's had one of the best arms in baseball in the outfield for years now. And the refrain has been over and over again, when are teams going to stop running on Adolis Garcia? Well, the answer appears to be now. Because Adolis Garcia, once you get to a certain level of respect around your throwing arm in the outfield, it becomes a deterrent. Not just throwing guys out on the bases, but it deters guys from taking the extra base. They know the scouting report of, oh, I cannot run on this guy. And sometimes that's as good or better than having that great throwing arm, making that great play to throw a guy out, trying to take the extra base. Because sometimes you won't always get that throw. But if more often than not you are making teams respect you and they are not even trying to take that extra base, there's no error that could possibly occur from a throw that is not hitting the cutoff man or not right on the money. It deters guys, and it is sometimes more valuable than actually throwing the guy out. But I mean, this offense hasn't quite lived up to its potential early on in the season. It's been inconsistent. There have been some moments where the offense looks like it did last year, where they'll have a 4, 5, 6, 7 run inning and just, absolutely annihilate a team in the span of 5, 6 batters. But for the most part, it's been fairly inconsistent. Corey Seager is still finding his swing. Marcus Semien has come in fits and spurts. Nathaniel Lowe has been a nice addition to this team. He's been very helpful in the 8 games that he's played so far, and I think he's going to make a big impact on this lineup, as he already has. But Adolis Garcia has been the one carrying water for this team. He has just been on fire offensively, not walking at the elite rate last year, so I think that maybe some of these numbers might come down a little bit, but so far he has just been a revelation. I mean, I said at the beginning of this year, I thought that Adolis Garcia had another level to get to offensively from what he did last year. And I feel like I got a lot of pushback on that. I'm like, okay, are we really sure? Like last year is like every year that Adolis Garcia has been an everyday player, the league consensus has been, okay, that was nice. I don't think he's going to do that again. And then he goes out and does that again, and it gets better. And then he goes out and does that again and gets better. And then he's done that every single year that he has been a starter. And at this point, I feel like just doubting that there is ever another level, that there isn't ever another level that Adolis Garcia can reach is insane. This guy is so supremely talented, such a hard worker. We have seen him get better time and time again, and it has been huge for the Rangers this year while the rest of the offense is catching back up to speed. Number 2 thing we've learned about this team so far, this bullpen is outstanding. Not just fine, not bad, not horrible like last year, but it has been outstanding. The top 5 leverage guys for the Rangers. The Rangers have 5 guys who they can trust in leverage situations at this point. It's Kirby Yates, David Robertson, Jacob Latz, which, nice surprise there, Jose Leclerc, and Josh Spores. Now, those 5 guys have combined to be outstanding so far this year. They've combined for 56 innings pitched, a 2.41 ERA, 59 strikeouts, 22 walks. That's about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.5 walks per 9, and about half of those are Jose Leclerc in the early stages of this year, and only 3 home runs in 56 innings from your top 5 leverage arms. Yeah, that's right. You have 5 guys you can trust in leverage situations this year. There was maybe an average of half a trustworthy reliever in high leverage situations last year. And this team is winning those 1-run games, those close games that they did not win last year. It's been amazing. I mean, Kirby Yates has got 5 saves on the year. In 12 innings pitched, he is still not allowed a single earned run. He's only allowed 3 hits. And this team has just been so good in the bullpen and gotten performances out of guys that they did not expect. Jacob Latz was not someone who was expected. I didn't expect to make the opening day roster. I think I might have maybe picked him as my, on one of my 3 or 4 opening day roster projections, but he has been, everything the Rangers could have asked for and then some. Jose Urena as the Rangers' longman has been very reliable. Cole Winn has been completely found money. I mean, the guy still hasn't allowed a hit in his first 6 big league innings pitched, and he's probably the 6th, 7th guy in terms of high leverage that you would throw out there. I mean, and also Jonathan Hernandez is back. I mean, the overall bullpen numbers are skewed a little bit by guys who I don't think are going to be pitching a whole lot. Grant Anderson's got a 12 ERA. Brock Burke's got a 15 ERA. He's on the 60-day IL. Austin Pruitt's on the IL. He's got an ERA of 12.5, and Yuri Rodriguez has a 10.5 ERA. I think the guys that they've got in the pen right now are incredibly solid and trustworthy, and it is such a difference between this year and last year of having a trustworthy pen, and this offense hasn't gotten going yet. The starting rotation, I'll talk more about how I anticipate that holding up, but the bullpen has been really helping this team in these high leverage close games, and if it can keep this up, which I think it can, it is going to bode incredibly well for the Rangers moving forward. The number 3 thing we've learned this season so far is that Josh Smith is the freaking truth. Oh my goodness, Josh Smith, have a first month. With Josh Jung going down and with Corey Seager being, taking a little bit of time to get fully back into the swing of things, Josh Smith had a lot of playing time early. He's made some tweaks to his swing. He is not hitting for as much power, not hitting the ball as hard, I should say, but he is hitting for power. I mean, he is tops on this team with 9 doubles, has a home run as well. Some of those 9 doubles, I think, should be triples. At least 2 of them, I'm pretty sure, have been doubles that we ended up on third base, and there was an error somewhere in there that made it ruled a double plus an error, and I think at least one of those should have been a triple. But Josh Smith has been hitting .304 and on base over .400, slugging over .450. I mean, he has played good defense at third base, and he is just not striking out. He is walking. He is just putting together quality at bats. He is even hitting against lefties. He is hitting in high leverage spots as well. He has got 13 RBIs on the year, which is fourth on this team behind just Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien, and Jonah Heim. He has been one of the Rangers' best hitters this year, and he has been an absolute revelation from a guy who was thought of as the second choice bench infield option to a guy who, once Josh Jung gets back, the Rangers might have to find a way to get Josh Smith at bats, because he has just been that good this year, and it has been so needed and so helpful, and I am very, very happy to say that Josh Smith is the freaking truth so far this year. Coming up to talk a little bit about this rotation, Evan Carter hitting for power, and Max Scherzer being an absolute freak in the best way possible. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. After the Dallas Stars tied up their first round series last night, they are still not as much favorites to win the Stanley Cup as I thought they would be. Right now, they're at plus 800, the sixth best odds. The Rangers right now, they are somehow tied with the Astros for the sixth best odds to win the World Series at plus 1,400 behind the Dodgers, Braves, Yankees, Orioles, and Phillies now. Interesting thought there of the Rangers, who are not 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games below 500, having the same odds as those Houston Astros. But if you want to get in on the action, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now, the number 4 thing that we've learned from the Texas Rangers so far this season is that Evan Carter's home run barrage last year that kind of caught us all by surprise, it's not a small sample size thing anymore at this point. Okay, maybe still a little bit of a small sample size thing, but it is something that he is replicating. He only hit 1 home run in the playoffs, despite playing basically every single game, all 17 games for him in the playoffs, just 1 home run that came in the second game of the wildcard series, and then no more home runs, just a whole bunch of doubles. But in his first 23 games in the regular season last year as a 21-year-old, he had 5 home runs in 75 plate appearances, and we thought, okay, that's something new. We haven't really seen that from Evan Carter. We didn't expect this guy to be hitting for power, hitting for average, hitting for doubles and triples in the gaps, and getting on base. That was all anticipated. Him having a 413 on base percentage in those first 75 plate appearances in the regular season last year. Thought, yeah, that's a little better than we thought a 21-year-old rookie would do, but it's not entirely out of question. But so far this year, he is hitting home runs yet again at an equal pace. He's got 5 home runs in his first 26 games this year. Last year was 23 games, just a little bit over 100 plate appearances, 103 to be specific this year. He's got 5 home runs, 5 doubles, 1 triple. So he's got 10 home runs in his first 49 big league games. That is a 162 game pace of 33 home runs if he were to play all 162. That's huge. That is massive, a massive development for Evan Carter, who continues to not have the most raw power, but the game power is playing well above that. I mean, he has got a good sweet spot opportunity, hitting the ball at the right angle, and it is allowing it to travel a little bit further. His home runs are almost all low line drives, not the big fly ball guys who have massive power that, want a big high launch angle. That's not Evan Carter's game. He is hitting line drives. He is hitting it on the sweet spot. And so far it's been a little bit of a struggle for him in the batting average department. He is still walking at a pretty good rate, still struggling pretty heavily against lefties. But again, it's only been 16 plate appearances so far this year. Does have his first hit against lefty, has reached base 3 times against lefties, once on a walk, once on an infield single, once on hit by pitch, and just an interesting little fact there, he has scored a run all 3 times that he has gotten on base against lefties in that tiny sample size. But it seems like these home runs are going to stick for Evan Carter. He is still heating up a little bit at the plate. We've seen, a couple of game stretches where he's looked like he's about to turn the corner and then hasn't quite yet. But still, I'm encouraged by seeing him hit home runs. Obviously, the defense, the speed, the on base are all there. He's still only hitting 213, but the on base of 311 so far in those 49 games. He's got a 252 average, 354 on base, 536 slugging. That is an 890 OPS. If that's about where he ends up at the end of this year, that will be a huge success for him. He is still just 21 years old and, playing every day on a team with championship aspirations after helping lead this team to their first ever World Series title just like a month after turning 21. You got to remember, this kid is so young and he has been so impressive so far. And if he can hit home runs at this rate, that is a huge development for the Rangers. Number 5 thing we've learned about this Rangers team so far is that while the rotation was anticipated to be, I feel like, around baseball bad, it's been fine. It hasn't been spectacular, but it's definitely good enough to hold on while the Rangers wait for their injured probably better starters to come back. And we're still waiting on Max Scherzer. Cody Bradford is going to be out for a little longer than we anticipated, probably going to be about another month or so. DeGrom and Mahle are still on the shelf as well and will likely join this rotation whenever they are fully healthy, and they have got some exceptional upside. But so far, this rotation's been fine. Nathan Eovaldi's got a 3 ERA in his first 6 starts, averaging 6 innings per start. Andrew Heaney has been the lone bugaboo in this rotation. He's got an ERA over 6, but his expected ERA is much better. He's shown some signs. He's still got those strikeout numbers. The walk numbers are coming down a little bit. Dane Dunning had a marvelous performance on Sunday. John Gray has not been able to go as deep into games as we would have liked, but the strikeout numbers have been fantastic for him. And Lorenzen's been fine. As a 4-5 in your rotation, which is about what he is at this point, he's been okay, about what the Rangers have expected him to be, going over almost just under 6 innings per start, 5 innings, 6 innings, and 6 innings for him. He's been solid. This rotation has been good enough, and once you add guys back like Scherzer, like maybe Bradford will be an improvement on this rotation. Maybe he'll end up shoving Andrew Heaney to the bullpen, and we'll see what Mahle and DeGrom look like whenever they get back, if they end up getting back this year, which I think they will. But this rotation's been good enough to keep this team in games. The offense hasn't been great to start this year, but this rotation is not pitching themselves out of games, which is what you want when you've got an offense that is this good, and I think eventually will get back to similar levels of production from last year. I mean, Seager has barely started hitting this year. Simeon has been inconsistent at times. Adolis Garcia has been the truth, but the rest of this lineup is only hit in fits and spurts, and they're going to find their stride. Adding Nathaniel Lowe back is helpful. Having Jonah Heim there is helpful. And then whenever Josh Jung does get back, he will improve this lineup even more, even though Josh Smith has been fantastic to start this year. The rotation was thought of as a weakness. It's been fine. And that is more than good enough at this point. The number 6 thing we've learned about the Rangers this season is that despite the evidence that we saw in spring training, Wyatt Langford is indeed human. And, well, the umpires are very jealous. Maybe that's not the right term. The umpires are not great this year. I talked about it on yesterday's show, but nearly 1 out of 5 pitches that have been called strikes against Wyatt Langford this year have been balls out of the zone. He is leading baseball in strikes outside the strike zone called against him, but he is not letting it get to him. He is not hitting for as much power as we thought early. He struggled in the first couple of weeks hitting against fastballs, deciding which pitches to swing at, mainly just the good ones in the zone he was letting go. He was being very passive. He's got a great knowledge of the strike zone. Also, he is incredibly fast, which I knew he was fast, but to this degree, I don't think any of us really knew exactly how fast Wyatt Langford was. And there were extreme expectations placed on Wyatt Langford from the get-go this season. I mean, you have a spring training like that. You just rock the cover off the baseball time and time again, and then it takes you until April 28th, I believe it was, when he hit his first home run. And, of course, it was inside the Parker. It's been a little bit of a struggle for Langford. but he is sticking with his approach. I have no doubt about his ability to be a good big league hitter, to great big league hitter, to amazing big league hitter eventually. But he's still just 22 years old. He is still figuring out the big leagues, what it takes to be a big league hitter. He is still adjusting to the, quite frankly, bad to terrible strike zones that have been called against him. He is figuring out how to hit against big league pitchers. It is a tough task, but the 22-year-old kid is in fact human, and hopefully he will make us look foolish for thinking he actually is human by going on an absolutely nuclear hot streak. Hopefully, maybe even starting the series against the Nationals. Come up, talk about the World Series hangover effects, the speed of this team, and Max Scherzer surprising everyone. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. This Mother's Day, get something thoughtful for mom on DoorDash. Surprise her from wherever you want with fresh bouquet of flowers, the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and more to make her day that much better. Get thoughtful gifts she deserves with the convenience you need. Choose same-day delivery or schedule a week ahead for when flowers and gifts should arrive on her door with DoorDash. To shop savings that will make her proud, with a Dash Pass membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduce service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees apply. Terms apply. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order up to $15 when you spend $15 plus on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB using DoorDash. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Now, the number 7 thing that we've learned about this team a month into the season is that the World Series hangover is real. Honestly, I thought that it was a bit overblown, a bit of a myth, a bit of a, misnomer of, there's the World Series hangover. Like, this team is basically the same as last year. They've got some new additions, some new young, exciting additions in Wyatt Langford, joining this team. He wasn't on the World Series roster. You got new additions in the bullpen that did not pitch a million innings in October in Kirby Yates and David Robertson, among others. Jacob Latz did not pitch in the playoffs, but it seems like it's taken its toll, at least with the injury front. That is, I feel like, the biggest way that the World Series hangover is tangibly in effect. I mean, Nathaniel Lowe having that oblique injury in spring training when he had literally never been injured his entire professional baseball career. I don't think he was even on the IL when he was in college. I mean, that's how durable and healthy this guy has been. But playing an extra month, playing an extra 17 games, winning a World Series, it takes a toll on you. I think we also saw it with Corey Seager with that sports hernia that he was dealing with all throughout the playoffs, including when he hit that game-tying homer in the bottom of the 9th inning. A glorious, glorious moment. And the Rangers decided to slow play it and not get surgery, see if it would just heal on its own. And then we were in January and thought, okay, well, I guess it's not doing that. So let's get the surgery. And he's going to miss most of spring training, which I don't think most of us, myself included, didn't think that would affect Corey Seager too much. But early on, the first couple weeks of the season, not so much now because he's hitting the baseball at a average exit velocity that is more commensurate with what you would think of Corey Seager. But those first couple weeks of the season, he just wasn't quite himself. He looked kind of like he does in early spring training where he is not really impacting the baseball as hard. He is still, getting that swing back. And he looked mortal, which is not something we've really seen very much from Corey Seager as a Texas Ranger. But he is hitting his stride. I mean, also the Josh Jung injury isn't as much a wear and tear as just a freak one-off thing, which happens to be the case with all of the Josh Jung injuries. Make me so incredibly sad, angry, upset. It seems like he's going to be back around the beginning of June, maybe to mid-June at the latest. Bochy said this past weekend he is maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks away from getting back to fully healthy. He's not eligible to be off the IL until June 1st because he was moved to the 60-day IL. So we'll see when we get Josh Jung back. But those injuries have really affected this team to a degree that I don't think any of us were expecting. I mean, Bradford's injury has been much more impactful than if you were to tell me that Cody Bradford would miss a month early on in the season, I would say, okay, that's really, like, it's not great. I don't want anybody to get hurt, but like, I don't think that's going to affect this team all that much. But I mean, Bradford, first 3 trips through the rotation, he had a 1.40 ERA, averaging, over 6 innings per start, and just looked phenomenal. And him missing this time with what ended up being a fractured rib, not a lower back strain, that's really not great for this Rangers team. It could have given them even more depth in this rotation, maybe moved one of the guys who was struggling in the rotation to the bullpen, or just gone with a 6-man rotation for now. I think that might have been what they would have done until Max Scherzer got off the IL, but I guess we'll never know, because Scherzer seems to be coming back a little bit faster than anticipated. We'll talk about that in just a second. But the 8th thing that we've learned so far about this team is really a quick little nugget, and that this team is fast. And not just a little fast, but freaky fast. Right now, they've got 2 of the top 10 fastest players in Major League Baseball. Evan Carter, who is 5th in Major League Baseball in sprint speed, and Wyatt Langford, who is 9th in Major League Baseball in sprint speed. Some of the guys that he's ahead of, Jorge Mateo, whose entire thing is being fast. Julio Rodriguez, he's faster than him. He's faster than Byron Buxton as well. And Corbin Carroll. It's nuts how fast this team is. We already knew that Evan Carter was incredibly fast, but we didn't know that Wyatt Langford was, this level of fast, of get inside the park home run fast. We still haven't seen them really let loose on the bases as much as I would have liked, especially for a team that has 2 guys in the top 10 fastest sprint speeds in Major League Baseball. I want to see those guys let loose. They've also got Zeke Duran, who's in the top 20 sprint speeds. He's at 17. And then we obviously know that, Leo Taveras is fast, Travis Jankowski is fast, and we've seen a little bit more sprint speed from Marcus Semien this year than at least I anticipated early on this year. I want to see this team be much more aggressive on the base paths, but they haven't gotten on base at a level that we were expecting so far. So maybe that's also part of it, is that when this team isn't hitting quite as well as you hoped they would early on, you don't want to give away outs on the base pass. But if they start hitting a little bit more, I think they will also be let loose a little bit more to run wild on the base pass, especially with Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford, those freaky fast youngsters. Now, the 9th thing we've learned about this team so far is that Max Scherzer is a freak in the best possible way. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean his healing abilities. I mean, this guy might as well be Wolverine the way he comes back from injury. The fact that he has been so healthy throughout his 17-year career, and he had never had a surgery before this herniated disc surgery that he had in December. There was not a whole lot of expectation of him to come on and perform early on this year, but tonight he's going to make his 2nd rehab start. He will have probably 1 more rehab start after that. Maybe it'll be on Saturday or Sunday, depending on how much rest they're going to give him. In tonight's start, he is going to be going for the Frisco Rough Riders in Corpus Christi against those Corpus Christi Hooks. He is going to go and throw 65 to 70 pitches. And the fact that he is slated to come back, as early as around mid-May is just bonkers. I mean, the guy's 39 years old. He was so good for the Rangers in the regular season last year. And if they can get a similar version of him this year, I mean, a 3-time Cy Young winner who has been dominant at times, as recently as 2022, where he had a 2.29 ERA for the Mets in 145 and a third innings. And he was pretty darn good in those 8 starts for the Rangers last year. I mean, he seemed to have figured something out. And it seems like he is, just so much better at healing than initially anticipated. The thought was he would come back in late June from that herniated disc surgery. But it's going to be probably a month to maybe 6 weeks earlier than anticipated. That is a huge boost for this team, especially with the setback with Cody Bradford, which is not something I thought we'd be saying, of Cody Bradford being this important to the rotation, but he has been. And, I mean, getting Max Scherzer back that much sooner than anticipated, getting 3/4 of a season of Max Scherzer, heck, maybe as much as like 80% of a full season of Max Scherzer is going to be very, very helpful for this team. And especially if it can get anywhere near the, not even peak levels of Max Scherzer, but 75, 80, 85% of peak Max Scherzer, that is just a huge boost for this rotation that's been fine, but not spectacular adding Max Scherzer would be spectacular for this team. Now, the 10th thing that we've learned about this team is not as much about the team as it is about what the team is being asked to do. I mean, the state of this team, the entire mantra was just hang on, don't get buried in the AL West race or the AL wildcard race while you wait for the Scherzers, DeGroms, and the Malleys to come back off the IL, and, well, now the Josh Youngs to come back off the IL as well. But this AL West is not as tough as we initially anticipated. This was supposed to be a, bloodbath in the AL West. It was supposed to be a just real gutty race between the Mariners, the Rangers, and the Houston Astros. But right now, the Mariners have been okay. Their pitching has been amazing. Their offense has been less solid. Shout out to former Ranger great Mitch Garver with a walk-off home run, the first ever walk-off home run of his career. Last night, a little bat drop. Good to see him, he hasn't had the best start to the season, and I'm always rooting for World Series hero Mitch Garver, just hopefully not to do it against the Rangers. But the Astros have been terrible to start this year. 9-19. The rotation has been incredibly hurt. Those top three in the bullpen have been terrible. That were supposed to be like the three best relievers in baseball. And the offense has been, well, it's been Jose Altuve. It's been a little bit of Kyle Tucker. Yordan Alvarez has been fine, but Bregman and Jose Abreu have been bad. I mean, I don't want to compare those two because Bregman's just been bad. Jose Abreu has been the worst hitter in baseball. And it seems like the Astros are burying themselves early on this season. April doesn't usually matter all that much for the standings. Just you don't want to put yourself in a hole that you can't dig out of. Right now, the Astros are 9-19. They're 6.5 games back of the Mariners in the top of the AL West, 5.5 games back of the Rangers. And so the Rangers are doing a good job of surviving, and if they can, get these bats to heat up, get those arms back and healthy and dominating, then this team is in such a good position early on. It's not been the best start to the year, but having those bright spots like the bullpen, like Josh Smith, like Cody Bradford, so hopefully he can be similar to that, maybe not sub-2 ERA, but good solid depth for your rotation, and just the rest of the depth of this bullpen, even without the offense, really getting anywhere near what we expected. This has been a very good start to the season. Hasn't been perfect, but the Rangers really don't need it to be. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.